Fill her up.
You're listening to the Gas Digital Network.
What do you want to do with your life? I want to talk.
Hey guys and girls, how you doing? This is just a short intro to what you're about to see to explain it to you a little bit. I just got off of this cruise, 80s rock cruise, which was, I'd never been on a cruise before, and I had a really great experience. First time, I'd probably do it again, actually. But that said, on the cruise, there was an interview done in front of a live audience and a Q&A. The interview was done by MTV VJ and DJ Mark Goodman, and he did a really great job with the interview, and it was a really free-rolling, entertaining conversation with a live audience. As a matter of fact, I even comment to Mark about how good he is, and I mean, he's been in the business for a long time. So I just want to prepare you because it's the audio on it's a little bit, even though the interview itself was fun and great and entertaining. I think you'll like it. The audio is a little rough. We tried to enhance it because it's the audience. It's I'm talking to a microphone like this, except it's not like a direct feed to the recorder. This is a filmed interview, so you're getting the live audio out of it. So, anyway, check it out, enjoy it, keep that in mind. Like I said, I think it's worth your time. I think you'll enjoy it. There were some entertaining moments in there. And in case you're wondering where I am, I've often told you that I live in Belize, and that's where, and I'm actually, normally I'm set up here outside for just a minute because I think, the sound may not be perfect. Just warming you up with the sound that's not perfect on this episode. But I'll just show you where I live here. Check this out. Pretty cool, right? Okay, and on that note, enjoy this week's episode of I Want to Talk.
Legendary Dee Snider. He wants to know why you guys are so far in the back. Come on up. Come on up. Hey, can you have a seat right here?
They're afraid of it.
Please, it's an intimate experience. Meltdowns of salt and cuddling. How you doing, man? I'm doing great. Welcome to Detroit. It's good to be back. Yeah. Heard you on the rip this afternoon doing the Lady Jane singing to get the haircut done. That was the weirdest thing. Do you guys know they have the broadcast booth at a men's hair salon? That's a pretty nice radio place, too. Okay, I don't want to beat them up, but they pull me up and they go, "Oh, you're going on riff," and they pull up in front of a men's hair salon. And I'm like, what the fucking joke is this? But the studio is in the men's hair salon. They tried to get me to sit down. I said no. I know. So, welcome to Detroit. What's your first impressions of Astronomica? My first impressions are Friday's awesome. The energy's awesome. I know there's a lot of Juggalo blood here, so it's good, and people know how to have a good time. So usually Fridays at these cons, you know or you don't know, tend to be slow. People don't show up on Friday. But you guys are here for the party, so it's great. Yeah, cool. Well, in case you guys don't know, Dee's got a new record out. It's called For the Love of Metal, and I just started listening to it this week, so I told him I hadn't got the vinyl copy of it yet. It's so killer, and we'll talk about that for a second here, but one of the first things it reminded me of was your old days in Widowmaker. That's kind of one of the first impressions I got. What do you think? That's kind of interesting. It's much heavier than Twisted was, and not Twisted. The first Twisted. Than Twisted was. And people were kind of confused by that, but I joined Twisted Sister, and they were a glitter rock. Glitter's like glam rock, early 70s, Bowie, T-Rex, Alice Cooper, that kind of stuff. And so when I joined them, I liked that stuff, but I was a metalhead, so I brought my metal influences, and we created what became what they call hair metal, glam rock. But Now I'm solo. Twisted retired 2 years ago. Twisted, not Twisted. So now I'm doing what I want to do, and what I want to do is fucking metal, hardcore, influenced metal. So, and the new album went to number 20 on the Billboard charts. I've been on the charts for 35 years, and it's been one of the top metal albums in the world since it came out. So I'm happy with the reaction. I hope you people have heard it, are happy with it, and if you haven't heard it, you older fans, I like them older, original. OG fans, they're loving it because there's enough of that Under the Blade, Widowmaker in there. But Jamie Shasta produced it, and you know, Mark Warren from Land of God, and you know, Howard Jones from Killswitch Engage, and I mean, so many and people from All That Remains, and all these bands came in and worked on the record, so it has a fresher sound. So, would you agree?
Yeah, it does, yes.
So, people both young and old alike are liking the record system.
Now, like you just mentioned about Jamie Johnson, so were you planning on recording anything before he came to you, or were you just going to kind of just see where life took you?
We built a house on a beach in Belize, and I was retiring, and Josta challenged me on his podcast. And he said, challenge you to do a true metal record. And I said, you know, I'd love to, but I don't want to repeat. I don't want to go back to the future. You know, that's when I was with Twisted Sister, and we were reunited. They kept wanting to do a new album. And I said, nobody wants to hear new music from an old band. They want you to do old-sounding music, and nobody is interested in hearing it, quite honestly. Anytime any old band says these words, for some fucking reason, all you motherfuckers have to piss. This is the words. Now, don't all run out and go piss, because I'm not doing it, alright? It's the words. This one's off the new record. It's like extreme resistance, or else you need a beer. I mean, I've seen every band in the world deal with it, and you fuckers don't think we can see. We're on stage, we're above you, we can see everybody leaving the room. He's like, you work on a new, so I said, fuck it, I'm not doing it, you know? But Johnson said, no, man. We didn't have a deal or nothing, we just did that in our own pockets, in our spare time. And he just said, no, let's work together. Everybody's going to want to work with you on this record. And I think we'll make something that's really cool and people are going to want to hear. And he was right, you know, so I'm retiring.
Now, one of the first things I saw when I picked up the album was he like produced it, he wrote a lot of the songs and stuff. Did you ever think that you were like leaving your career in his hands?
Absolutely. I mean, but I said, look, I don't want to, I'm like brutally honest, you know, I'm that guy. I said, I had stopped writing in 96 after the second Widowmaker record because I just felt like I wasn't being true. I felt like I was, instead of writing from the heart, I was listening to what was going on and trying to imitate it. And that's not honest, you know, and that's why I feel the records weren't working. You know, people, I'm not saying, you know, I'm proud of the Widowmaker stuff, but still, the fact is I was analyzing the newer sound and trying to sound newer. So Jost, I said, I don't know what to do, so I'm putting myself in your hands. And Jost is really talented, really smart, and really fucking dedicated to metal, to hardcore. He's, you know, and so he said, like, you know, put your trust in me. I said, all right, dude. So like I said, we had no record deal. We went in the studio, but the minute we started recording, both of us, I'm on one side of the glass, and I'm going, fuck, this works. And they're on the other side of the glass going, oh, this works. He's fucking getting into it. So it just sort of gelled, and then, like I said, everybody started coming out of the woodwork to write on the record and be a part of it. It was really cool.
Yeah, it's interesting because you were in Twisted Sister then that one when you started Widowmaker. For those that don't know, that was on El Petrelli and whatnot. And that was the time when music was really changing.
Yeah.
In the early 90s.
Yeah, and it just sort of felt like there was not a place for me. You know, the music scene was changing dramatically, and I was feeling like, okay, I had my moment, step the fuck aside. And I'm down, you know, I'm fine with that. I went into radio then and television and did movies and you know, I've been on Broadway, there's all sorts of crazy shit. But now, Josh is like, no dude, you're iconic, and we need Dee Snider's voice. We need that voice of anger, that voice of frustration, that voice to speak for everybody who are just fucking pissed off with the world somebody's got to represent. And believe me, I know there's a lot of people representing Twisted and all the guys, but he says you got a unique voice, and people still want to hear it. So I think, fortunately, it's been working out, and he can see me live, and I'm not one of those. I'm not going to mention Vince Neil's name,
Especially in the program.
He'll be 6 today. I'm not mentioning that. I'm fucking 64. Okay, so don't tell me how tough it is to get up there and rock. And so, but anyway, I always stay in shape, and my heart's here. But now I've got the album to fucking go with how I feel inside.
And let's go back real fast because one of the coolest documentaries I saw in the past few years was We Are Twisted, not Sister.
Yeah.
Talk about that, how that came about.
Some documentarian. Has anybody seen the documentary We Are Twisted Fucking Sister? 257 Okay. You don't gotta be a hardcore fan to like this documentary. And what happened was this documentary producer heard of that fact that Twisted Sister, we were together for 10 years before the world discovered us, before MTV, before that We're Not Gonna Take You moment. 10 fucking years. And we had this regional, we were really popular regionally. We were just cruising Long Island, New Jersey, Connecticut. It was a tri-state thing. We played for 1,000 to 4,000 people a night, 5 nights a week, without a record deal. We had bodyguards. It was crazy. We were just locally famous. Kind of what Bob Seger was like that at some point. When he first started out, huge in the Detroit area, but the only place else you just played like a little bar. So there's these artists who were like that. Anyway, he heard a story. He said, this is like a Rocky story. This is like a band that wouldn't give up. And we just we got knocked down so many times, and we just refused to die. And we finally won. So he made this documentary called We Are Twisted Fucking Sister. And it's done really well. It's on Netflix and Amazon and everything. So you can check it out. You're looking for some inspiration. You're feeling like, man, how can I do this one more fucking day? Go just 5 assholes doing it for 10 fucking years. And you go, oh shit, that's nothing. I got nothing on that.
You guys really had your share of downs before your ups.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you just mentioned Bob Seger and stuff. I know you talked to Wayne Kramer recently. Detroit, of course, is heavy as far as music goes, the musical past. What kind of stuff influences you from Detroit?
Well, look, Alice. I know he's by way of Arizona, but he's originally from Detroit, and they broke out of here. Alice Cooper, Iggy Pop, MC5. You got these bands. Let me tell you a fucking Wayne Kramer story. This is awesome. So I finally meet Wayne, and we can sit down. We go have breakfast together, And so we're talking. You have an opportunity to meet one of your heroes and just sit down and just having pancakes and coffee and just like talking about everything. It was just an awesome moment. So now you guys, how many people are aware of the history of the MC5? Anybody? A lot of young people here. Okay, these motherfuckers were literally revolutionaries, right? They came out of the hippie era, but you guys don't do hippie well. They they were a hippie era, but like with guns and shit, okay? And they seriously, you guys don't do hippie well in the Midwest. Like, fuck that, And so they formed the White Panthers, and it wasn't like a KKK thing. It was like in solidarity with the Black Panthers. So they're investigated by the FBI and the CIA, and everybody's up their ass. And there's rumors that they tried to blow up the federal building here in town. This is a rock band. In the spare time, I know we're over there burning down churches, but this is a rock band out of Detroit who in the spare time is trying to blow up federal buildings. That's metal as fuck right there. So, alright, now this is fucking 50 years ago. So I'm leaving Wayne, we walked out to our cars, I said, listen, before I just want to know, did you guys blow up the building? And Wayne just goes dead on me. Alright, so I'm gonna go. It's an empty parking lot. It's 50 years later. Statue of Limitations has gotta be over. And he's still fucking like, yeah, I'm gonna go. So I think they tried to blow up the federal building.
Now you became friends with Kevin because you tweeted something about it, right?
Yeah, I'm in this really cool position, when you get to be famous and you get to meet your heroes and become friends with your heroes. And and if it's a new band, like there's a band called Monster Truck out of Canada. I don't know if anybody's heard of. Real retro, Leonard Skinner meets Deep Purple in Alice in Chains' backyard. I mean, they just get it and they fucking rock, and it's awesome. And now when that happens, I just contact the record label, get the guy's phone number, and call up, and hey, John, it's Dee Snider. And I'm like, Dee Snider? I'm like, yeah, man, I love your band. I got a t-shirt and everything. So I just call him up, and I get to meet him. And with some, I take advantage of that. And when the opportunity, I saw Wayne on Twitter, and I just I zoomed in there. I said, dude, I love the MC5. And then, I get to connect and be friends, so it's cool that I get to do that. I mean, I get to friends with Robert Plant, Alice Cooper, and the fact of the matter is I'll sit there hang with these guys, and every now and then it hits me that I literally had a Robert Plant poster hanging over my bed. Over my fucking bed, right on the top of the headboard, and I kind of bow down before it, and now I'm hanging with the dude. So I never forget that because, fan first, rock star second,
How many of you guys had a Dee Snider Twisted Sister poster above your... You got a couple.
The OGs.
Old guys.
I didn't say that. Original gangsters.
Yeah. So we're talking about social media stuff and meeting some of your heroes and stuff. What do you think about social media in 2019 where the fans can interact with you as well?
I've been active on social media now for a while, and it's an interesting thing. It's definitely brings you closer. It connects you with them, and they're more connected with you. And there's so many people who come up to me and say, "Hey, I'm the Grease Monkey on Twitter or whatever." You say, "Where are you, Grease Monkey?" Yeah, I expect you to be taller.
I've heard that before too.
But it's interesting because one thing is cool. You can get the word out more directly. You're getting to make statements, right? Immediately to the people, and then the press is picking up on the statements you're making, but they're your statements. So we can't say something misquoted you because they're literally taking your tweet out. It's what you wrote. So it's a great opportunity to have your voice heard, and it's weird sometimes how things react. Okay. How many people here are on Twitter? Are you on Twitter? Okay. So, isn't it weird what reacts or doesn't react? Is it the same for you guys as me? I'll share my hearing those things. And then one day I'm just sitting at fucking breakfast and I love pancakes. It was my biggest tweet. It was thousands and thousands, and I was like, what the fuck? I'm talking about my first child. And it was 50 people said I like it, and now I'm saying I like pancakes. And everybody, do you like pancakes? I like pancakes too. What the fuck is that? But then I just had a blow up on Twitter, and again it was just I was just sitting there going, what the NFL? What's the songs you play at every game are Welcome to the Jungle, Come On Feel the Noise, We're Not Gonna Take It, Thunderstruck. I run down a list. I go, not one of those bands has played the halftime show. What's up with that? Fucking 30,000 retweets. I mean, people are talking about it on radio, and actually just sort of hit me. Why is the pump-up music is all this great shit? This one I went and studied it, and Billboard actually did 100 most popular rock and jock, sports anthems. By the way, I thought I won a rock and rock ticket on it. They didn't make the top 100 itself, much to my chagrin. But I looked at the list, and only 2 of the bands whose music is played at every fucking sporting event actually played the Super Bowl. So they're hiring bands like Coldplay. What the fuck is that supposed to do? And I'm going to be posting an open letter to Roger Goodell saying that the idea of the halftime show is to continue the energy and then bring it to the second half, not squash the energy I'd suck all the fucking air out of the room, Maroon 5. Holy fuck. But it took your shirt off. You know, I mean, it's just so, people react to that, you know, so social media is awesome like that, where you can share something and people can share it with each other.
Yeah, you know what social media is like? Did you ever see the movie Strangeland, right?
I love that movie because it doesn't hold up. None of that shit works anymore.
Here's the thing. Remember when they're going on the bus and they're singing songs and stuff, and then John Candy says to Steve Martin, sing a song. He starts singing a song and no one follows along. And then John Candy starts singing the Flintstones and everyone follows along. That's what the internet's like.
Exactly. And that's why we need the Flintstones reunion, halftime, and
That's right, get the Flintstones.
Yeah, but now I fucking do.
Hey, Chuck is out there and he's got a microphone, so if you guys have a question, we'll get Chuck here in just a second. Real fast, I want to talk about a few more things here with Dee, so you guys think of your questions here.
I want to talk about something. All right. You know any juggalos here? Yeah. You do know I'm the only motherfucking celebrity that stood up for Insane Clown Posse with all that bullshit. The only one that's had the video. I couldn't believe my ears when the guys told me. They contacted me and said, will you say something about the way we're being treated? Is this fucking censorship? And they said, nobody else will stand up. And I felt like I was back in the 80s when I went to Washington to stand up to fight censorship. Nobody else stepped forward. Nobody wanted to fucking get involved. That's bullshit. Censorship is censorship. Whether you like the posse or not, it's fucking censorship. You gotta fight it. You're either for censorship or against it. I'm fucking against it. Just for us.
Hey, man, we heard this afterwards, stickers on your records, and your record sales started going up. How'd that feel?
You know what? That's actually an urban legend. That sales went up. Everybody says that. Wrong. Okay. The reason I was against those stickers is I saw what they could be used for. I was afraid that they would use to segregate material, and they were. When the stickers happened, stores that were conservative wouldn't carry the records. They wouldn't shelve them. So it wasn't a matter of making parents aware. If you can't get the record, that's the problem. So people say, oh, my sales went up. No, they did not go up. There were stores that stopped carrying. And it got even worse. Best Buy and Walmart, they were demanding censored versions of records that you didn't know were censored. So the Strangeland soundtrack, my movie Strangeland, there's a Kid Rock song on there, thank you. But there's a Kid Rock song on there called Fuck Off. And
it's not on his record yet.
Yeah, when I went to Best Buy, it had been removed. And it didn't say censored version, edited version. They just had a special issue made. The record companies made it because they wouldn't make a carry record unless they removed all profanity from the record. So that's fucked up. Yeah. And that's what censorship goes too far. So.
Yeah, I think I listened to Kid Rock's Devil Without a Cause for 6 months before I realized there was 2 songs missing on that record.
Yeah, and it's fucked up because when I was in Washington, they were saying, well, we're conservative 12-year-olds. Well, so, a 16-year-old, an 18-year-old, a 20-year-old can go into Walmart and buy an album and not have to worry about some songs being removed or censored like you did, So it was fucked up.
Hey, Chuck, you got a question out there for us. There you go.
Hey, Dee, I want to keep going with that question about the comment about the censorship. Can you talk for a minute more about that back then when you were testifying before Congress? What did you feel like at that time? Did you feel like it was changing, that things were going to change because of it? Did it get better eventually as it got worse?
All right. Assuming that people don't know what happened. In the 80s, they wanted to sticker the records. That's the Warner. And so they asked me if I would come and testify before the Senate hearing, along with Frank Zappa and John Denver, of all people, and in defense of rock and roll. I was one of the bands that was being censored. We're not going to take it. It was on the Filthy 15 for being violent. It was the stupidest fucking thing. So I thought I was carrying the torch. When they asked me to carry the flag, man, into battle, lead the fucking way. But when I got there, the record company had already agreed to a sticker. When Frank and I, we hadn't even opened our mouths when we found out that the RIAA, the recording industry, who have now changed their name, by the way, because they're scum. Anyway, they had already agreed to the sticker. So Frank and I are like, what are we doing here? I mean, they've already given up. And then afterwards, the truth of the matter was, the other bands, just like I said about ICP and people speaking out against censorship of any kind, that way people just lay low. Everybody else in the industry just shut their mouths. I'm talking about all my peers. Nobody stood up. Nobody said, yeah, we're with Dee, not one other band. Okay? Dan Kennedy's credits due, Jello Biafra, he did speak out. But for the most part, they did not. I went home, and to my phones being tapped, to my mail being checked, to my packages being checked. I was suddenly, because I fucking embarrassed those motherfuckers, I did. But I did. But I was suddenly public enemy number one, and it was the aftermath. It was not cool. So, but as the years have gone by, it's become this sort of big, legendary, cool thing, and I did the right thing, so that's all I care about. I stood up when someone needed to stand up. If nobody else stood up, just like with ICP, I'm standing up. I'm not looking around going, well, who else is saying something? You're either against censorship or you're not against censorship, so.
Hey, this might be kind of a silly question, but it kind of is the same type of thing. Was it, do you kind of feel like you kind of knew where Lars was coming from with the Napster thing? He's kind of up there by himself as well.
I totally understood. People were villainizing, Metallica. And first of all, we toured together in the early days. Those motherfuckers earned every fucking dollar they made. They didn't give an inch until the, alternative record. But other than that, which I thought was a great record, but then they gave an inch. But up till that point, they just fought hard. And I remember, this is a true story. So we're on tour with Metallica, and we're in Holland, and I'm standing outside the stage, and I'm watching them doing their set. And I turn to our bass player and I go, these guys got a lot of heart, but they're never going to go anywhere. Like I said, I'm brutally honest. I said that out fucking loud, I'm an asshole. But I didn't mean it like against them. I just said, they're so heavy. They're so heavy yet. But they made people, just accept how heavy they were. And that's the great thing about Metallica. But with Lars and the Napster thing, and he didn't... Look, when I explain to people my feelings about the sampling that was going on, and now it's just gone, it's out of control. But I said, look, it's like going to a fruit stand, and you're thinking about buying some strawberries or some grapes. Most fruit stands that I've been to, and when I say fruit, I don't mean fruit, I mean like actual fruit, okay? But most fruit stands will say, taste it. And they'll let you taste the strawberry. And they'll let you taste the grape. You go, oh, you know what? They're not ripe yet. And you walk away. Or you say, wow, I really like those. At that point, you don't steal the grapes or the strawberries. You pay for the strawberries. So, to me, sampling was a great thing. It goes back to the 50s when people used to go into record shops, and this is true, and they would get to put on the record with a pair of headphones and listen to the music. So you listen and they go, I like this, and you pay it, or this sucks, and you don't buy it. That's cool. That's fine. So Lars just, Lars is Lars. And he just, I don't think he explained it right, but he got crucified.
I guess the question is you can appreciate where he's going.
I totally can appreciate it. You stand out there with your dick in your hand. And that's what I felt like. Well, actually, my dick was in both hands.
Here, look at this. Cannibal, what do you say? Cannibal Holocaust.
That's a serious movie.
Nice.
What was your favorite part of playing Captain Howdy in Strangeland?
My favorite part of playing Captain Howdy is Strangeland. Has anybody seen Strangeland?
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad. No, seriously. My favorite part...
It's the cardigan.
That was the worst part. That was the part I had ulcers playing, trying to beat that Nebuchadnezzar. That was the worst part. This is the truth, I gotta tell you. When I wrote that movie, I was a father of 3 children. I was the cop in my head. It was what I would do if someone did that to my kids. That was the inspiration of the songs that inspired that, and I was like, I'd get that motherfucker, whatever it took. So, but I don't have the rugged good looks to be the cop. So I had to be the scary bad guy. So I really didn't identify with Captain Howdy, but I certainly did a good job of making believe. But as far as I'm concerned, I mean, and I have girls, and you may be one of them, and girls walked up to the table and said, "I love Captain Howdy," and I said, "You are fucked. Do not come to my room. Stay away from me, because you're not supposed to like that guy. You're supposed to, I was trying to make him as fucking heinous as possible, and yet there's some people who go, he's hot."
Well, there's people that write, all sorts of letters to, convicted serial killers in jail,
So, but I loved, I'll tell you one more Strangeland story. So I wrote the movie, and I co-produced it, and getting to make it, and so there's one scene, where in the middle of the movie where the father finds his daughter in the cage. He comes into Howdy's lair and he shoots Howdy, and Howdy's face down, laying on the ground. He's just been shot. He's just trying to get his daughter out of the cage. So we're filming this scene. There's like 50 extras in the room and candles, and everybody's nude and mouths are sewn shut. It's fucking, the setup was crazy. And and action, and I start laughing. And they're like, cut, Dee, what's going on? I'm on the ground, face down, laughing. And I said, I just remembered sitting in my basement writing this scene. He lays face down on the ground, I'm writing the scene, and here it was coming to fucking life. And I just started laughing at the excitement of it, but it wasn't a funny scene.
I think I saw that movie in the theater.
Although Linda Cardellini apparently accidentally saw my balls. She said Linda Cardellini's actress she was Genevieve, and when I fell on the ground, I was wearing a loincloth. She's in the cage with her mouth sewn shut, and somehow she managed to go, "I see your balls." I think I was laughing about that too. That's right.
Now, you've really reinvented yourself in movies and music and the whole thing. Like you said, you were doing voiceovers. You've done a bunch of those as well.
Yeah.
What was the time when you were if I remember correctly, you were working in an office? What year was that?
Well, by 1992, I had lost all the millions of dollars. I didn't lose it. I knew where it was, just some other people were using the money. I don't know where I had possession of it. I knew where it went. And I didn't do drugs, and I didn't drink, and I wasn't one of those people who said, my manager controlled it. No, I controlled fucking everything. I fucking just blew it. And people say, how do you lose that much money? And it's very simple. It takes a tremendous ego, and that's not a joke, to convince yourself that against all odds, I'm going to make it. When you make it, and then it starts to come apart, that same ego that got you there won't let you believe that it's falling apart. So instead of going, oh wow, I better downscale everything, sell a few cars and a boat or two, and instead of doing that, you go, oh, the next tour, the next album, and eventually you just start borrowing against your future income, and eventually you cut you off, and eventually I had a year where I had $0 income. 91 or 92, $0 on my tax return. Okay, and I was literally riding a bicycle to a desk job, answering phones for $200 cash a week, because I had 3 kids and I was married. And the choice at that point is either do this or you fucking do something. And a woman does something. You stand up and you just pick yourself up and you try. And I remember sitting in that office and people would walk in, this is 92, and they'd see Dee Snider answering the phone. They go, hey, aren't you Dee Snider? And I would lie, because I was so embarrassed. And the people believed the lie, because who would think Dee Snider would be on the phone at the desk? That guy I saw on MTV. So, I'm proud that I pulled out of it and came back from it and have had success again in so many things. But it's important that I like to share that story, because people need to know that we all fall down. We all fuck up. And it's about how, they still say it's not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get back up and keep moving forward. And that's just remember that. As long as you're healthy enough to get out and try again, Thank you. I'll keep going.
Got a question right here in the front. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to go back to Strangeland because there's something I've always wondered, especially now since you said you identified more with the cop there. What was the inspiration for some of those lines that Captain Howdy had, like the whole speech about the rite of passage and stuff?
That was awesome.
Some of the shit you said in there was deep.
Well, it's a deep shit. No, I really, got into the body mod community, and I really studied, and I really read, and I really spent time within the community to understand the philosophy, and it is a belief system, a deep belief system. In Captain Howdy's case, it was a pile of shit. He was using the belief system to cover up his desire to hurt people and for people to suffer at his hands. That's not what body modification is about. It's voluntary. You go in and you get pierced, you do a flesher hanging, you do some recreational piercing, but it's a choice, not someone doing it against your will. So I really got in there and studied. I'll tell you a story about my studies. So I go to a top piercing bar, and I'm looking around at, they have all sorts of magazines and books, and one of the piercers recognized me. He says, "Hey, Dee, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm writing this movie, characters deep in this piercing world." And he goes, "I'm about to do a piercing. Do you want to come inside and watch?" So I'm like, that'd be cool, It's like going for a ride along with a cop, like actually seeing how it happens. So he says to the guy and the girl, "Do you mind if Dee comes in and watches?" And they go, "No, that's cool. Come on inside." So the guy gets in, and Keith Alexander, his name was, played with a band called Carnivore. Played with me in SNFs as well, but he's a top piercer and brander. And he goes, "Okay, drop your pants." And the guy drops down, and he goes, "All right," and now he's holding the guy's dick in his hand. All right, so I said, "Oh shit, he's piercing his dick." And I said, "Oh, well, fortunately, Keith's a righty, and I'm behind him, so I don't gotta watch this guy getting his dick pierced." And until Keith goes, "Hey, Dee, why don't you come on the other side so you get a review of what's going on?" Watch a guy get his dick pierced. Shit. It was an ant line, all right? So it's going like right through the fucking, right below the head, right through. So Keith goes, I've got a girlfriend there, they're all excited because it's a pleasure piercing. And so Keith's still holding the dick. There's a common heterosexual sitting there just holding the dick. He goes, "Listen, get ready. A few seconds of pain for a lifetime of pleasure." The guy goes, "Go for it." Goes through. This guy's eyes go, "Oh shit."
Hey, has anybody here ever seen Twisted Sister live?
Yes!
One person. I love that girl. OG. There's a few people. Yeah, that's an old thing too. I didn't say that. It's an old thing.
A lot of younger people ask about the movie and about the PMRC, which of course lives on for the rest of eternity.
It's a weird thing because all right, how many people here are aware that I have a radio show on the riff called House of Hair? So I've been a DJ now for 25 years. House of Hair has been on 22 years. So I've seen in my household, my daughter was just born when that show started, and now she's out of college and she's working and looks like Captain Howdy's daughter, actually. Heavily tattooed, pierced, red screen hair. She's fantastic. It's been like a lifetime. But a lot of people know me as a DJ or from reality TV or from Strangeland. And Twisted Sister is like a very distant thing to younger people. So it's interesting.
How many of you guys saw him on The Apprentice?
Yeah.
With the president.
With the president.
That means you're qualified now.
I'll tell you this. For what it's worth, I raised $325,000 for the March of Dimes and helps premature babies and babies born on birth. So that was good enough reason to do that show.
And don't you do a motorcycle ride every year for charity?
Yeah, I've been doing charity rides. I do a lot of charity work. I always thank Mick Foley as my inspiration. I did zero charity work before I met Mick Foley, and he is one of the most charitable, generous people I have ever met in my life. And he reached out to me one day and said, hey, I'm going to the hospital to see a kid, got cancer, he's a fan of yours, would you come with me to the hospital? And we went there, and I spent, the afternoon with this kid, and it says it in one of Mick's books. He dropped me off my house, and I said, Mick, you changed my life today. And he did, and I started doing charitable work. I received awards for doing charitable work. Nothing compared to Mick Foley. The shit he does. I mean, give it up for Mick Foley. Beyond, he does many public things. He's done he has a list from the Cancer Society of kids with cancer who are wrestling fans. And he cold calls them in his spare time. No fanfare, no publicity, no Make-A-Wish Foundation, which is a great foundation, and he's done. He just knocks on their fucking doors and says, hey, how you doing? And walks in and hangs out for an afternoon. That's charity at a level I can't even conceive of. So, one more time, Mick Foley, this is inspiration for me. It should be to everybody.
I tell you what, I got time for a couple more questions, guys.
I got one, Dee, if you don't mind. Could you tell the assembled folk here today about what the magic of Christmas Day is?
Okay. So it's late 80s. I've been with the same woman 43 years, Suzette. I met her when she was 15, I was 21. Yikes. Family was mobbed and threatened to kill me on the first date. That was like meeting the fucking Sopranos, let me tell you. It was fucking heavy. But we've been together forever. So at some point in the late 80s, she asked me to write her a Christmas song. And I look and I said, what the fucking nuts on the middle? How about a Christmas song? I don't know why I talk like Stallone at his worst, and she goes, you're a classically trained countertenor, which I actually am. And she goes, you can write me a Christmas song. I go, I can't write a Christmas song. Christmas songs are genre specific. When's the last time you heard a really good new, Anyway, she said, you can do it. So I was doing some writing, and divine, whatever, a Christmas song was flying out of my mouth. And like a real Christmas song, not a metal Christmas song, not a rock Christmas song, Christmas song. I can't even sing it right. So for Christmas that year, I hired some session musicians, and I hired a woman, and they recorded it, sang it, and I gave it to her as a Christmas present. That was it. It was a gift from my wife. Engineer on the session asked if he could have a copy. Cut to 5 years later, I get a call. Said engineer is now producer. Because he's sitting down. I said, yeah. And I remember 5 years later, this is when I'm riding a bike to fucking a desk job, right? He goes, sit down and yeah, because Celine Dion wants to record your wife's Christmas song. So I go, does she know who wrote the song? He says, I haven't told her yet. I said, do not tell her. Say she wrote her Christmas song. Just put it on the fucking album. He says, well, she wants to change the title. The title was God Bless Us Everyone. He says, she wants to call it The Magic of Christmas, God Bless Us Everyone. I said, I don't care if she calls it, this song's a piece of dog shit. Just put it on her fucking Christmas album. Well, that Christmas album is the biggest selling holiday record in history. It's called These Are Special Times. It sold 14 million copies and counting, and we call our house the house Saint Celine built. God bless Saint Celine. No, I still don't want to ruin it. I'm afraid she'll retroactively pull it off the record. You wrote it? Give me my money back.
That's funny. Hey, we got one more over there, Chuck? No? Dee, wake up. We got one more. Here we go.
Yes, I was wondering why you chose to cover Cry Little Sister of all songs.
I had this project called Van Helsing's Curse. It was a gothic Halloween rock orchestra to a story, mixed rock and classical, and worked with Al Trelli, mentioned earlier, who was with Megadeth, and he's from the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. And so we released the record, and people kept wanting to hear me sing at the show. It was a Halloween show. And there was no vocals on this thing. It was me narrating the story. I didn't sing. Like, people kept wanting like an encore, so someone suggested Cry Little Sister. And it's just a great just spooky. Not spooky, I don't know what the word is for it. Just sort of a great vibe to it, you know? And Thou Shalt Not Fear, the good kids singing. So we went in and recorded it and added it as to a re-release of the record because it just fit. So I would do that as an encore. So finally, after sitting through me prattling on about some scary thing, I'd come out and sing one song at the end. It was Cry Little Sister. So that was the inspiration. Great song.
If I remember correctly, was it one of the songs Tubular Hell or something like that?
Tubular Hell, yeah. Mixture of Tubular Bells and a few other things. It was a great record. We brought the show out here. It was kind of like a Trans-Siberian on steroids, but it just was very expensive to stage, and we just couldn't get it launched, unfortunately.
So wrapping things up here with you, Dee, and thanks for all your time today. What's coming up in 2019? You got tours, you got more of these cons, what do you got?
You know, this, I got more cons, of course. This record has reconnected me with not just my audience, with a new audience, and I've been doing more and more live shows. We're working on the music for the next record. There will be a follow-up album to For the Love of Metal, and so I think that'll be later this year. I know I'm going to be recording vocals in April and May, and again, the outpouring here has been just amazing. Everybody in the community loved the record. I'm talking about the musicians themselves, and Jamie says his phone's like blowing off the wall. Everybody wants to get involved and play on the record, be a part of the record. Very flattering. Look, you know, I'm an egomaniac and a narcissist. It's a job requirement for being a frontman. It says it on the top. Are you a narcissist? Yes, I am. Are you an egomaniac? Self-centered? Yes, you can be a frontman. But not so much so that I expected this kind of outpouring from the community. It honestly was touching just to see how many people either grew up on Twisted or just liked what I was about and wanted to get involved. So it's very cool. And it's great to have new music out in the fucking 2000s. When I thought I'd be laying on the beach, baking in the sun.
You just got back from Australia this week or something.
Yeah, I was baking in that sun. Yeah. That was different. You know, we did a couple shows there and got to travel, and that was cool.
Yeah. It's funny because I saw Dee a bunch of times when I grew up in Buffalo, and I think I've only seen you 3 times in 23 years here in Detroit.
I know. I'm on the shittiest tour in the world. I don't tour. But I'm doing so many other things that I can't not do my radio career, not do my voiceover career, not do all the other things I'm involved in. So, you know, I love music, but I love challenges and the fact that I've got to do crazy shit like Rock of Ages on Broadway. I was on Broadway for 3 months. That was like the Bizarro world, man. It was cool as fuck, but it was just a whole different thing, choreography. 5, 6, 7, 8, you know, doing all that shit. So, okay, but so do I have one more second? Yeah. I'll tell them, okay, this was like, so the weird thing about doing theater is that in rock and roll you face the audience. You know, you stand on the front of the stage, you know, and it's like this, right? You know, you scan and you're watching, but in theater, it's all this. You know, you're sideways and you're not supposed to acknowledge. You're not supposed to acknowledge the audience. The only acknowledgement is if there's laughter going on, you kind of wait a beat before you do your next line. Other than that, no acknowledgement. So, Rock of Ages, great show on Broadway, fucked up movie, terrible movie, Tom Cruise ruined it. Okay, and people say, oh, I thought it was okay. No, let me tell you, I was on Broadway when Cruise came in, and the character of Stacey Jacks was a supporting character, it was a clown character. It was a mixture of Vince Neil, Bret Michaels, David Lee Roth, and Dee Snider, all rolled into one. And the guy was a joke. It was a hysterical part. But Cruise came on and he goes, I want him to be more, you know, introverted, more withdrawn. And he turned into Scott Stapp from Creed. I go, who the fuck is that guy? So it was not the character. They rewrote the script for him. So funny show. But my character, I played the bartender. The part Alec Baldwin played. Also, Broadway, no kissing. There was no kissing. All of a sudden I see Russell Brand and Alec Baldwin making out. What the fuck happened? It was like a romance. It was like 2 rows, you know? And all of a sudden they like turned and had to take it the next mile. Fucking Hollywood. So anyway, so my character at the end, the show ends, and then there's the narrator in Broadway. He just sort of reflects. He goes, well, the club reopened. You know, the band stayed together. Stacey Jacks did this. Unfortunately, we lost Dennis a few years ago. Now, Dennis is the bartender, and I'm still on stage. So at that point, I walk up every night and go, what? And the guy goes, oh yeah, you're dead. And then the spotlight gets smaller and smaller, and I desperately try to stay in the spotlight, and then I walk off into the light offside stage, and I come back as an angel in the end, okay? Spoiler alert. So one night I come up, and I'm on stage, and he goes, unfortunately, we lost Dennis a few years ago. And I come up on the side, I go, what? He goes, yeah, man, you're dead. And a guy, front row, right here goes, thank God. It took every fucking thing in my body not to walk out with him and turn around, motherfucker. And I just stood my ground, I'm a professional, and I walked off. Afterwards, the dancers told me, we gave him a really dirty look. I said, that was sweet girls, but somehow not the same as fuck yeah. I'm not dead. So,
he's still very much alive, guys. Let's hear it for Dee Snider.